Before we get into today's Valley episode, I just wanted to let you all know that I am recapping the secret lives of Mormon wives over on my Patreon. So go to patreon.com/Bravo and Botox. You can subscribe for a month and just get access to, all the episodes for as long as you want to subscribe, or you can buy just the individual episodes that you want. So if you're just interested in the secret lives of Mormon wives, you can do that. I've recapped episodes 1 to 5, and I'll be putting up a recap for episodes 6 to 10 in the next few days. All right, enjoy today's recap. Welcome to the Bravo Papers, a safe space for all us Bravo fans who love to analyze, deconstruct, and talk about our favorite Bravo shows ad nauseum. So join me, Bravo and Botox, and we'll catch up on all the Bravo news and read way too much into our favorite shows and Bravo celebrities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bravo Papers, here for a bonus episode of The Valley After Show, that is, I should say. And today we're going to be covering episodes 4 and 5. Episode 4 didn't have like a ton of stuff. It was very short. It was a short after show, but there was a little bit. But episode 5 had a lot of juice to it because that was like, the latest episode where they're on the trip and everyone's having a meltdown and Michelle and Jesse are at each other's throats, and for some reason the group decides they need to gang up on Nia about her husband's actions that she's not really responsible for. But anyways, let's get into it. So we'll start with episode 4. So that was the week before. I think that was a little bit more of like a filler, quote unquote, episode. It was sort of like they were on their way to their trip and all that kind of stuff. And we were experiencing Jax going to rehab and all that kind of stuff. So the first thing that they talk about on this after show is Jax texting from rehab. Makes sense. And there was a lot of people, myself included, who were sort of like, well, why don't you block him? But which I still am kind of like, why didn't you block him? But maybe that's because now it's like, for me, it's like 2 episodes of my television show where I have to watch Brittany, kind of whining and complaining about this. Whereas on the other hand, in her life, her actual life, maybe it didn't seem like that much time. I don't know. Like maybe she felt like, okay, well, I'm giving it I'll give him another day or 2 before I block. So basically what she says is that she didn't block him at first because of Cruz, but then eventually did. Zach and Jasmine say, so eventually she blocked him. Actually, I want to go back to that, which I do get that. Like, I do get why you would, maybe just think that keeping in contact is going to somehow encourage him or something like that. And I can also understand that what she says is that she thought okay, I can give him pictures of Cruz and stuff like that, and it would kind of keep him motivated. So I can kind of understand that. But yeah. Okay. So then Jasmine and Zach say that there's been no change since he's been in rehab. The implication is that he's actually worse. So yeah, I mean, we've heard that because Zach has been on social media kind of preaching that, because when he first went to rehab and it was first reported on, by news media, whatever, people were like, wow, good for him. Like, there was a little bit of that, but then I think Brittany showing receipts about things that Jax was saying and kind of giving her side, and then you had Zach speaking up, and I think a lot of us trust Zach to kind of give us this is what's happening. So yeah, so I do believe Zach and Jasmine, as they're not impartial because clearly they're more friends with Brittany, but I do trust them when they say that. Britt says she's not sure why he still has his phone. She says he was either love bombing or rage texting, which that sounds like very Jax to go just to one extreme or the other. That's him. Because he'll try it both ways. Like he'll try to butter you up, and then if the buttering up isn't working, then he gets frustrated and he turns to rage. That's how you know he's a toxic abuser. Jason says since he's still blaming Britt, that he kind of knew Jax wasn't changing. Yeah. So Jason's like, the fact that he's still like not taking ownership and blaming Britt in terms of like why he's in rehab, he's like, that's not somebody who is taking ownership of like, I need help. Yes, exactly. Jax says in the state of California, you cannot take someone's phone away. Okay, so I guess that's why he technically, so the way that he explains it is that when you go there, kind of most people voluntarily give up their phones because they know that's kind of the process, or they're told sort of like, we prefer you not to have them, but they cannot like take them away forcefully. At least that was what Jax was saying. So, but who knows? It's Jax, so I can only like take his word for it to, we take it with a grain of salt. But he says that he chose to keep it because, of course, he did. He still couldn't bring it into the therapy sessions, but he chose to keep it. He says he should have given it up for his own good, he admits. Of course, he's great at admitting things in retrospect. He very rarely does the right thing in the moment. He always wants to admit things were wrong later and then wants people to forgive him. And that's another like added to the list of toxic traits. Jack says that he has to have control. He doesn't know what it is. He says it could be his ego, narcissism. Yeah, all of the above. He doesn't know how to stop it, but he feels the need to have control. See, and this is the problem, is that he will never, this is what you can't cure him of, in my opinion, is that he has this controlling need. And I do think that is like narcissism or personality disorder of some kind. And I don't think you can change that. Jasmine and Zach say he'll never let Brittany go. This to me was the craziest thing from this whole after show, was them saying that. They said he'll never let her go because he needs to have control. That's scary. And unfortunately, they may be right, because like they might be right in the sense that they have a child together. And I do think that it might not be in like an extreme way always. Like it might not always be like, oh, he's not going to let her like divorce him. He may get divorced and they may live separate lives and he may start dating someone new. Like all of that is a possibility. But another thing that is a possibility is that in some way he's going to always like make things difficult so that he can feel like he has some control over her emotions and her stability and the way that she's living her life. And that's clear because like he's the type that he's like out like cheating on her like a gajillion times. But then if she has like one indiscretion that technically they were separated, so it wasn't, he's like flipping tables and going nuts. Like that's textbook abuser narcissist. Okay. So Jax admits he's never been held accountable for his actions. Okay. He says even as a kid, never. Okay, thanks, Jax's parents, thanks for that. He says this is the first time that he was really held accountable in a real way. I mean, that is kind of true, because if you think about it, like all the stuff that he did on Vanderpump Rules, even if we saw like a quote unquote punishment, like when he had to go to jail for stealing the sunglasses or whatever, he still profited off of that. Like he became more famous and more rich because then you're signed on for another season. And like he was being rewarded for bad behavior as an adult. And I'm sure, and I feel like prior to Vanderpump Rules, he was probably being rewarded a lot for his appearance, like his looks. He was like getting things and taking shortcuts because of that. Like I think he unfortunately is correct here. He's never really suffered real consequences. Now, this I think felt maybe a little more like a real I don't think it makes any difference, and I don't believe anything Jack says, but I can see that this would maybe to him feel like a little bit more of a consequence because he had to stop filming, and that's a big bruise to his ego. because he sees the show as like his. Right. Which actually, when he was fired off Vanderpump Rules, that could also be another of the like rare consequences that he's faced. And, according to Brittany, that sent him into a complete spiral. Yeah, because he can't take that. Um, Britt says she knows it's hard to talk about, but she's a reality TV figure and she needs to be honest and give people the chance to be inspired to leave their toxic relationships, maybe by seeing her doing it. Okay. Yeah, that could happen. Listen, I hope it does. If she helps one person, that's great. I don't know if she will because I just don't know. Because I just feel like we've watched Jax be this like toxic person for so long. It's like we all knew you needed to leave. But yeah, there could be people who are in their own, trapped in their own, who might be like, well, if she can leave Jax, I can certainly do that. Right? That's possible. Um, sorry. Jack says, and again, here he goes back to his like blaming. It always comes back to like if she or if my friends or if whoever had just done like how he was when he was like, well, if my friends would just come and check on me, meanwhile they're fucking checking on you. But here he is again with the like, if someone else had just done this, I wouldn't have been rage texting and been an asshole. Right. So he says, if he had just gotten one text from Brittany saying, yes, you're missed, it would have made a world of difference. He would have felt so much better. Like, again, that's his backwards way of saying that, if he was rage texting and he was like not fully in it at rehab, it's because Britt didn't give him the reassurance he needed. Always finds a way to blame somebody. And this is why he will never change. Britt says he thought that while she was in there that she should be his like supportive, loving wife. But, does he not remember what he had just done? Exactly. You had just been violent in front of your son, by the way, or who was in the next room, close enough. And you also made your autistic son and wife move out so that because you refused to leave the house. Why should she be supportive of you? And you're separated. Like she's not like your loving wife. Sorry. Like it's just, you have to find a different support system. That's the truth. And when you're in rehab, like you're kind of on your own. Like it's not, your family doesn't have to be checking in and they shouldn't even be able to. Like most of the time, there's no communication via text. Like you might get like a 15-minute phone call. You might get to like have like a limited phone time on the weekend or a visit here and there. But like it's not, like what he's expecting is psychotic. But again, it's Jax. He even said, why didn't Brittany leave him a note when he came to get his stuff? So I guess when he came to the house to get his stuff before going to rehab, he was like expecting her to leave him like some nice note. Why? Why? This is the fucked up crazy part. Like you are abusive and are abusing and have just abused and you want to be comforted. Like this man is fucked, like in the head. I just can't. He says, Jax is like, I just wanted to note words of affirmation to tell me that they're thinking about me. Why is it all about you? Maybe you're the one who should have left a note being like, I got my stuff. I'm off. I'm so sorry that I threw a coffee table and traumatized you and our son. And like, he's like, I just wanted something, a heart emoji, anything, something. What he wanted was a clue that he still had control. And he wanted a clue that he could still get her back. That's the truth. So that he can continue, treating her like shit. He's using her as a pawn to also prove to the public and the world that he's quote unquote changed. Because I think for a long time, like when him and Brittany were off TV and, we just saw what they put out on social media, he could use that like family image to show like Jax is not who he once was, right? So Britt says, we're separated and you're crazy. She says he was all upset because she had a birthday party and didn't invite him. And she was like, we're separated. Like, exactly. Like this guy's fucked. He says if she had just texted him once, he would have put his phone away. Okay, yeah. So again, They're exactly what I said earlier. And thank you, Jax, for proving me right. If Britt had just texted me once, I would have been a different person in rehab and I wouldn't have been rage texting all day. It is her fault. Yep. Okay. So then we go to Jesse. Janet says that Jesse knew he messed up and would face consequences, so he bought the white flags. Yeah, duh. Sorry, but like, thanks, Captain Obvious. He obviously, like, he was trying to make what he did wrong into a joke, right? Like, and you can tell that some of these guys, he's not the only one, will try to use like some sort of like humor or deflection when they've done something wrong. Um, Jesse says they were just going through the Jax thing, and it was so beautiful where they were on their trip. And if you can't relax, that's on you. I guess he's talking to Michelle. Um, Listen, it would be hard to relax if your ex is there, but also I can't get that deep in that argument because Michelle chose to go. So like she could have missed out on filming, which I know she didn't want to, which again, I don't blame her for. They're making money. You want to be on the show. I get it, but then you also can't it's hard. You can't really be mad cuz he's there. Well, I mean you can, but it's going to be a tough leg to stand on. Janet says the flag is his way of saying, "See, I wanted peace and Michelle doesn't." Yeah, that's probably true. I do think that he's trying to say that like, oh, if we get into arguments and stuff, like I'm the one who was wanting peace and who was wanting us to not fight. Now, that being said, maybe he did not want to fight because he was hosting the trip, and how the trip goes is sort of like a reflection of him. So if he was doing that, it wasn't because he was doing it like to be a nice guy to Michelle. He's doing it like for himself, right? Michelle says he used to do that. He would say something bad and then just pretend it didn't exist the next day. Yeah, I think a lot of guys do that because they don't know how to deal with emotions. They don't know how to have these conversations. And I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying it's a very unfortunate reality. And I think it's the reason that a lot of men act out violently. And I think if we solved that problem, no, I'm not saying we women, but I'm just saying if society, again, fought harder against like toxic masculinity, we would have less of these issues. We would have less Jaxes throwing coffee tables, because men need to talk about emotions and they need to learn how to do that. Sheena, sorry. Then we talk about Janet and Zach. Okay. So Sheena, because don't forget, Sheena's there. Sheena's here. She's ready to give us her opinion on everything. She's just so, she's so team Janet about everything that I'm like, Sheena, I was already annoyed that you were here in the first place. And now you've come here as Janet's like fucking cheerleader, which is just makes it 1,000 times worse. So Sheena says that Zach wants validation from Michelle, but she won't give it to him. So I guess Zach is like, they're kind of trying to say that, on the trip, he was sort of trying to like get back in with Michelle as well, but she wasn't like giving that. And Michelle's like, I don't owe him anything. And I was kind of like, where did this come from? I didn't even like register that there was like, I know they had like a little thing, but I was like, okay, anyways, I don't think it's that important. But Janet says these three are like, I don't know. They think they're like a little crew. I don't know. I mean, the boys do that too, but it's just because Sheena's not on the show. That's why it's driving me crazy. Okay. Janet says the conversation with Zach was okay, but she doesn't feel he took full accountability for the things he said. I thought he did. And I'm not just saying that because I prefer Zach, but I thought that in the moment, I really thought he did. Like, I do think he walked it back a little in confessional. And I do think there was a little bit of justifying in terms of like the blackout thing. But I think overall, he did take full accountability. And I did think he seemed like sincere in that sit down. I really thought he was sincere. But, this is Janet. So I just feel like she's never, like, she's being so, and I'm sorry, I hate, like, this term gets overused, but she is being so Karen about this. Like, she's never going to let it go. Even the way that she like after he apologized and they had both kind of made up, then she brought it up again. That drove me crazy. Like, if you are going to accept an apology and say you're moving forward, accept the apology and move forward. If you keep rehashing it, then you're not really like, you're still holding it over the person's head. And now you're being the asshole. So Janet says he's 40 and being blacked out isn't an excuse. Fine. That's true. It's not an excuse. But again, that's why he was coming to you to apologize. And she thinks he was mad at Britt for telling her. He was, and he had every right to be, by the way. And I'll get into that in a minute. Zach said that summer Britt was not in the best place. And so you can tell like Zach is still friends with Brittany. They have such a long history. They're so close. Like he is going to kind of like make excuses for her. But he says, and I think he might learn the hard way over the next couple of years, that it doesn't matter how long you've known Brittany, she will like throw you under the bus because like she thinks she's like the queen bee of this show, period. So he says Britt was not in the best place and she was still under Janet's spell. So that's why Britt told Janet what he said. So clearly he's making excuses. But I also think that at this point, when they're filming the after show, they've probably made up from, this conflict. So he probably doesn't want to get too deep into it again. Nia says she understands Zach's point of view, but Britt, did what she thought was right in the moment. And Kristen, meanwhile, says, he got the consequences for what he said. So, like, what are you going to do? Right. And, they've made up and they've moved on. Right. Exactly. Janet says she was surprised because it went from Britt saying, see, and this is what I'm talking about. This is where you see that Janet has not let anything go. She would keep this storyline going for the next like 10 years if she could. She was surprised because it went from Britt saying she couldn't look him in the face to him being at her birthday party. And she was like, what is this? Well, did she say like, I can never speak to him for the rest of his life? We're never being friends again. Maybe she did, but either way, it's like, you don't get to like Brittany is not, no one has to be your soldier where they have to like cut off all their relationships. Even the expectation that Brittany would never speak to him again and like cut him out. Like to me, that alone shows such a sense of entitlement from Janet. Sheena says Britt was trying to compare it to Sheena and Tom Sandoval. Like, okay, it's not the same Sheena. But she's like, well, I understood that. So that was Sheena being like, oh, well, now you're using my own, stupidity against me, basically. But listen, she's not wrong. Tom Sandoval did something way worse than what Zach did. Sorry. And his was like actual, like, weren't just words. They were like actions that really hurt someone deeply. And you still wanted to be friends with him. So you can't sit here and criticize Brittany for giving Zach another chance. Sorry. Especially when Zach has gone to the person, which is Janet, and shown accountability and said sorry. Like Tom Sandoval, the reason people were so mad about that is because he would not take accountability. And he kept making excuses and trying to doubt. Like he handled that. Like, imagine the worst you can handle it and times it by a million. But then Sheena says, yeah, but she's got to tell him that what he said was wrong. She did. She did. She stopped speaking to him for months and they're like best friends and they go back to like Kentucky. So I don't know what do these girls want? Like, why don't we just strap Brittany and Zach up and throw some gasoline on them and light a torch? Like, what do you want from them? Like, it's insanity. Britt says she has a long history with Zach and she's a forgiving person. I mean, listen, she has a lot of flaws. I will agree with her that she is a forgiving person because I do think that you have to be to last this long with Jax. But being forgiving can be a flaw if you're too forgiving, which I think she is. Now, I think in this case, she's right to be forgiving because she didn't talk to him for a few months. He had to own it and apologize for it, which he did. And now it's time to move on. Like, I think that's enough. Okay. He didn't like murder someone here. Zach says they can move past it, but it would take him being the bigger person and she wouldn't take responsibility for her actions that led him to saying that. So, okay, listen, I don't like Janet, but Zach is being a little like, victim blamey here, but I hate that term because Janet's not a victim. But I see what he's saying. Like, I see what he's saying. But in this case, but like, I just hate that he said this because this gives Janet ammunition. Because now she can be like, see, he's not taking full accountability because now he's trying to say that I provoked him into saying those disgusting things. Well, like, this is not like, Zach this is not like Jax where like somebody threw a coffee table and like there's no excuse for that. This is like you two were, wrapped up in some friend group drama. So like it's a little different, Janet. I like how I'm arguing with her and she's not even like like saying this and I'm just like making it up. Okay. I'm like arguing with myself. So Janet says they won't be friends, but she can be cordial for the sake of their friend group. Okay, thanks. You're such a big person. Okay, let's go to Jesse. Um, you know what the funny thing is about Janet? I didn't even hate her as much as everybody else did season 1. I really, really didn't like her. And I thought she was super obnoxious. And even at the beginning of this season, I felt that way. But now I'm like fully on board. Like I was even like, I feel like the hate for her is like a little too extra, like online. But these last couple episodes, I'm like I'm like, okay, yeah, you deserve it. Sorry. Like now I'm fully turned to anti Janet. Okay, so then we're gonna talk about Jesse's meltdown in his baggy gray non-tidy whiteys because they were like loose. I don't know. It was so bad. His granny panties, whatever you want to call them, that was the funniest thing. I couldn't even like listen to what he was saying when I watched the episode because I was like, all I can think about is these pants. Like it's these pants, these underpants. Like this is wild. So Jesse says it was just boiling up inside of him and eventually it was going to come out. But he says Michelle's moved on. It's been over a year. She's with someone else. She's happy. So he doesn't understand why she's still so mad at him. Well, because you're still in the middle of a divorce and you're making things difficult on your end. So that kind of makes sense. If you two had like just gotten a divorce and everything went like smoothly and amicably, I don't think she would still be mad. Like I think she would still maybe just like not like you that much, but I also think that you wouldn't be having this much contention. Like he can't pretend he has no role in this, especially when it comes to like making the divorce difficult, because he clearly is. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that he has to like comply with every single one of her demands and do everything exactly how she wants it, because he might have his own perspective or the way he wants things sometimes. But, there's a way to go about it without just like poking and being difficult on purpose, which it does feel like that's probably what's happening. He said, and then he says, I understand I can be condescending about work and we might disagree about business, but she's moved on. Okay, well, that's a pretty big thing. Like if you're condescending about work and business and you literally work together, somebody needs to leave this real estate agency or wherever they work. Like, are we both staying? And I guess Michelle did say in one of the other interviews that she feels like she's conceded with everything and she doesn't want to give in and like lose the work too and be the one who like switched agencies or whatever. But yeah, which I get that. But on the other side, I don't know. I don't know what you should do in that situation. I guess you have to just grin and bear it. I don't know. Because I was gonna say like maybe she should just leave, protect her peace or whatever. But like again, she shouldn't have to. But if he's but he could say on his side, well, I'm fine with it. So it's like then what are you gonna do? It's like a stalemate. Michelle says Jesse's a crier and that it doesn't mean anything because he'll cry over anything. And then she says when his dog died, he cried for 3 weeks straight. Okay, Michelle, I don't know if that's the best example because there's probably a lot of people who would cry for 3 weeks after their dog died. So like I don't know if you're trying to make him look like a loser with that. I don't think it's gonna work. Okay. Let's go. See, and this is the part that drives me crazy always is like we always say we want like men to be like more open and to like talk about their emotions. And then when they are emotional, we make fun of them. And that's what I like. I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, if they're going to be emotional and open, like, shouldn't we be supportive of that? Like, Jesse's got a lot of things you can pick on and he has a lot of bad qualities. So I think the fact that he cried about his dog is like, is fine. I don't think that's anything. Okay, I think Michelle's just kind of being an asshole now. Because listen, I'm not forgetting Michelle's an asshole too, by the way. They both are. I'm also not forgetting, like, I don't know how she skirted past last season with the whole, like, don't say gay thing, that she supported that or whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't look at her and see, like, a good person who's, like, 100% a victim. Do I think she's a victim of Jesse in some ways? Yes. But do I think she's also an asshole in her own ways? Also, yes. And both of those things can be true. Um, Michelle kissed someone else right around when they were getting divorced. So now we're on episode 5. Sorry, I should have transitioned to that. So episode 5, Jesse says Michelle kissed someone else right around when they were getting divorced. Oh, sorry, Michelle says that, not Jesse. And she says that she regrets it, but that Jesse fixated on it. Jesse says right before filming started, like the first season, they had, oh no, sorry, the second season. Right before they started filming the second season, they had kind of like an intervention of sorts with a friend of theirs who it seems like was maybe like a mediator almost between the two of them of like how they were going to handle filming season 2, which is, you know what, that's not the worst idea. Like, I don't like it when, you know, the reality stars try to like overproduce too much, but in this case this is like a fresh divorce. And it's not like on other shows where like somebody's getting a divorce and only one person is still on the show. You know, this is not like Housewives. Like this is, they're both like main cast members, right? So Jesse says that they had this kind of intervention, and Michelle said to Jesse, you can't say I was cheating with Aaron because I wasn't. And Jesse's like, but you were cheating. He said, then Michelle got red in the face and said, yeah. And then she told him about how her and her friend went out one night, met these two guys, and then started dating them. And Jesse accepted that as the truth and agreed not to speak about Aaron as the one she was cheating with on camera for the sake of Isabella. This is Jesse telling this. So I am going to believe it, not because it's Jesse, but because this doesn't make him look good. This makes him look bad because he said that he would not speak about Aaron as being the cheat, and he did. So he did break his kind of side of the bargain, because that is like he's been all going on about the honey conspiracy, etc. And now I'm kind of like, did you do this on purpose, like to really piss her off? And maybe that is what he did. Like he was like, I won't talk about Aaron, and then I will, but then I did bring it up, and now she's fucking losing it on camera. He's diabolical, I have to say. And then we go back to Michelle, who, sure enough, says they agreed. And the first thing he does is bring up cheating on camera. Okay, now she says cheating in general, but I believe that she means the cheating with Aaron, which, to be fair, he did. So she's right. Michelle says that Jesse fixates on the cheating stuff because he doesn't want to remember all the bad stuff he did. Well, that's true. You know, I think that he's kind of, you know, he's doing the thing that like Jax is trying to do with the whole like Brittany dating that, what's his name? I can't remember his name. That guy that she dated for like a, or hooked up with, Julian, was it Julian? I think Julian. Because, you know, he can just fixate on that one thing to try and make himself look more innocent. However, I just want to say on the other side of things, it is hard to make the argument against someone of like, oh, you're just upset because I cheated because you did bad stuff. It's kind of like, you know, a person does have the right to be upset that you cheated on them. Like that is, you also did something wrong. And And from the other side, I could say that now you're trying to deflect by saying like, well, let's not talk about me cheating because here's all the bad stuff he did. Granted, I'm more like I agree with her in the sense of like, yes, he is trying to deflect things. But and again, I think based on like how he treated her during the marriage, like I'm not that, I don't think he has that much right to be upset about the cheating. But again, it's still cheating. You still did it. And unfortunately, you gave him ammunition. I'm sorry, but you did. Okay. So Janet says there, and again, I'm not saying cheating is right, by the way, just for people listening. I'm not saying cheating is right or anything like that, but I can understand a bit more when you're in a relationship that is so toxic and the person is like a terrible husband and is neglecting you and doing things like in the next comment, we'll see like in a group chat, he called her fat when she was pregnant. Like, I can't feel bad for Jesse that his wife cheated on him when this is how he's treating his marriage. Like, it's kind of like, well, like, what are we doing? Right. And, even maybe by the time he was like trying to change or do better as he like says he was, I don't know if he actually was, it's like, it's too little too late. Right. And I think he had to learn that the hard way. And I think that's a good thing. Like, sorry, you fucked up. And then when she wanted to leave you, you were still in love with her. She didn't love you anymore. And it was easy for her to walk away. And like, that's a tough pill to swallow for him, which he deserved. So Janet said, but again, it doesn't mean that he can't also be like, well, I'm sad she cheated on me. So yeah. Anyways, this is why they're both assholes, really. Janet says there's a text in the guys group chat that Janet saw where Jesse's calling Michelle fat when she was pregnant. So I guess she saw that like way back then. God, this group chat has been around for a long time. Jesse said, and Jesse, you are terrible. Like, just like, why why are you even having that conversation with your guy friends? Like, I just can't imagine any situation in which like my husband is like discussing his friends' wives' bodies. Like, it's just so like crazy to me. It's like, I don't know, the world I live in, it's like you don't comment on like your friends' spouses' bodies. Like, even if like whether husband or wife, like, why are we even talking about that? Like, is it like they're just this? Actually, I just answered my own question. I was going to say this group is just so superficial and crazy. And these guys are just like, it's like they think like women like owe them a certain body. And it's like, no, we don't owe you shit. And get as fucking fat as I want. And by the way, she probably wasn't, first of all. But second of all, like, you want her to have your child, but what you want her to look the exact same. Like, you need to get your head checked. Okay. All right. So Jesse said he struggled after they separated. He couldn't sleep. He would stay up waiting for her to come home. Waiting for her to come home safe, he says. I don't know. And then he would see her come in on the camera, I guess, and he would close the garage. But he was like just so shaken up because she was like going out and he didn't know with who, and he lost 40 pounds and blah, blah, blah. Like this whole sob story. Michelle says he's not innocent. She would come home with their daughter and she would be at home raising their daughter and he would be out like having 8-hour lunches, etc. So again, like, this is the problem with these divorce stories is they just back and forth, back and forth. It's like both of them can go on for hours about all the flaws of the other person. She says he didn't get caught, but she thinks there was something going on for a while. So she's also implying cheating, I guess. I don't even want to go down this road at this point. It's like, am I supposed to feel bad for you now too? Like, well, not that I feel bad for anyone, but now am I supposed to feel bad for you for being cheated on after you just said that Jesse's fixated on the cheating, get over it? No, I don't care. It seems like, okay, so you're both cheaters. I don't know. Okay, she says less than a week after she asked for a divorce, he hooked up with a married woman. She saw the message on his laptop. So who cares? You wanted a divorce and you already were in a relationship with Aaron. What the, like, okay, again, you're both cheaters and you're both liars. Okay, we have found that out. But I get what she's saying. Like, why does he want all this sympathy? Whether he hooked up with a married woman, and she's like, he's such a hypocrite because he's calling me a cheater, but he hooked up with a married woman. Well, technically, he's not a hypocrite because he would have to be the married cheater to be the hypocrite, but like the other woman was married, so that's on her, right? I guess technically. But again, I do get what she's saying in that like he's fine with her cheating on her husband. Well, of course he is because it's not his wife. Because we're all, because people are all fucking hypocrites. Not everybody, but in this case. He says he bought her lingerie in Paris and then she wore it out one night and he found it the next day and it was clearly worn. Dun dun dun. Again, I don't care about this. Jesse says at the end of the day, he can't hold on to resentment because Aaron and her are sleeping in the next room to his daughter and are around her all the time. Yes, exactly. Can we all just like take a breath? You clearly fucked each other over in so many ways. You both cheated, you both lied. One of you might be like a little bit worse than the other or not. I don't even fucking know anymore. And at the end of the day, like I'm kind of getting sick of hearing like the back and forth. Okay, so then we go to bipolar. The discussion of Jax having it, that is. Jax says he cried when he got the diagnosis. Okay, Jax. Years ago, he was told he had something, but not bipolar. And by the way, I'm not downplaying the diagnosis of bipolar. I'm just downplaying Jax because I just don't believe anything he says. Britt says he was diagnosed with bipolar before, but he didn't do anything about it. Danny says years ago, he himself, Danny, had some issues, something going on with his head. He needed help and he ended up going on medication. So when he heard about this diagnosis for Jax, he was like, okay, good. We can do something he can do something to really help himself. He can get on a medication. He can get better. But then he found out that Jax had already been given this diagnosis and had refused medication. So he's like, so I take it all back. So see, like even Jax's guy friends are like, you're useless, you know? Jax says he got a prescription for Lexapro because he thought he was depressed, but it didn't work. Britt says, though, that the prescription sat in the drawer for a year and he never got it filled. Her and his sister would beg him to try it. I mean, that is a thing. I'm not making excuses for Jax, but that is a thing with mental health is like when somebody is mentally ill, it is hard to get them to take their medication sometimes, depending on the situation. But, again, it's the story we're getting is slightly different. So then the producer tries to clarify this and tells Jax what Brittany was saying on her side. Jax says, no, it was not. He was not diagnosed with bipolar. It was depression. He said he didn't get the prescription filled, but then the second time this is what he says. It's very confusing. But the second time he did, he took Lexapro and it didn't do shit. And then he ended up going to rehab 2 weeks later. Okay, so he's saying he was never diagnosed with bipolar. He was diagnosed with depression. He was given a medication, didn't fill it, and then he went back, got another prescription for, again, depression, it seems, took Lexapro for like 5 minutes, decided it didn't work, and then 2 weeks later, the whole blow up happened and he went to rehab. Here's the thing. Jax is also the type who would not give the medication any time to start working. He would be impatient because, again, he's always gotten like immediate gratification in his life. Every time he wants to fuck, he gets to fuck. Every time he wants to get drunk, he gets to get drunk. Like let me make like easy money. That's just been his whole life. So like, I'm not shocked that Jax would not even give a medication like time to start working. And he would just be like, fuck this, it doesn't work, whatever. I'm also not surprised he would leave a prescription in a drawer for a year. and be like, I don't need that. Like, that seems to be, and again, that can also be a symptom of bipolar, like just the ups and downs, right? So he says in rehab, they said he's not depressed. Okay. But he's glad he's on medication because he feels much better. So I guess he's on medication for bipolar, I'm assuming. And he hasn't had any blowups since being medicated. He doesn't see red anymore. Again, I take this with a grain of salt because I don't know if I believe he's on medication. I'm going to start with that. I don't know if I believe he doesn't have blowups anymore because I just don't know if I believe that. Brittany said in an interview that I saw recently that, like, I guess maybe it's like less frequent since rehab, and she attributes it to being sober. So fine, but that he is still vile and toxic, maybe just not like vile, toxic, and throwing things, right? So it's like we got rid of one, maybe, I don't know. Then they flash to Brittany, who, and this is why I take everything with a grain of salt, who is sitting there filming the after show interview and looks up and says, and her phone is blowing up and says, well, I have 14 texts from Jax. Okay, there you go. Right. And there it is. He also called her 3 times. So she has 3 missed calls. So he calls again and she actually answers while they're filming the after show. And she's like, I'm filming the after show. And she puts him on speaker. And he's like, oh, sorry, I forgot. I've had a rough day. I'm having car issues. It's just a bad day. So he right away realizes that she's filming in that moment and starts backtracking because he probably knows that she's going to tell them right now, he sent me 14 texts and called 3 times. And then she says, all right, I have to go. And he's like, why are you being so mean? And then Britt says, I'm not being mean. And then Jax is like, yeah, I just feel like you're being short with me. And then Britt is like, well, it's because I'm supposed to go film. And he's like, oh, okay. And he just sounds like he hasn't changed. That's all I'm going to say. So then we go back to talking about Jesse in the past. Okay. So, all right, wait, where was I? Okay. So basically they talk about how Jesse and Michelle kind of were. They both give their perspectives. And it does seem like at one point they had a good relationship. They worked well together. Jesse helped her break into ultra luxury real estate. They used to have fun. They would go to Europe, the Hamptons. They rarely fought. They had like a very intimate relationship. Michelle says there were subtle red flags. Like once she had a baby, she changed and he seemed to get more immature. But she says the biggest change involved money. So Michelle references Kathy Hilton saying that basically they were at like a party at Kathy Hilton's, I guess, since they've been on the Valley. And she said to her, some people don't know how to deal with success. Okay. So it seems like they were very successful. They made millions. And it seems like Jesse maybe kind of spiraled after that. Like he got too carried away with like appearances. And this does happen to people. It's like you make $1 million and then it's not enough. You want 2 million and then you make 2 million and it's not, and you just want more and more to the next level. And he also seemed like he wanted that sort of like appearance of being like a billionaire. It's almost like being a millionaire wasn't good enough. Or like, having made millions wasn't enough. They needed more. Jesse says after she had the baby, wine didn't taste, good to her anymore. They didn't do things like that together. Michelle says it's because it tasted bad to her after the baby, but also because he had spent so much money on it that she was turned off. So it seems like Jesse still wanted to do the like luxury kind of, we're going wine tasting and we're going out partying and going on these fancy trips. Whereas Michelle was like, well, I need to stay home and take care of this baby, and then he was still spending, but they weren't bringing in as much because of the baby. So again, as happens, having kids can change a relationship. Michelle says that there was a time he was a homebody. But once they had a baby, it was kind of like the other way around. He was gone all the time. Brock says, because apparently we need Brock's opinion. He says he's 100% on Michelle's side. You can't say things like that to your wife when you have a child with someone. Like, I guess any of the things that he said. Brock, don't like you're right. However, you're the wrong messenger. I don't start me on your wife back in Australia who you were violent against and abandoned, by the way. Okay. Oh yeah, he's talking about the hooker thing. Michelle says I should have called him a hooker because he got a Venmo and it was more than what she got. Okay, good. You're both hookers. Oh, I kid. This was one of the funniest things was that Jesse's trying to call her a hooker. And then all of a sudden she's like, yeah, well, you're a hooker too. And here's my evidence. And mine is even stronger than yours. And you're a hooker and you're a gay hooker. Like it was just like, I was like, this is the funniest. Like only on Bravo are we getting this. So Zach and Jasmine start talking about how they heard he was on Grindr, but it could have been a fake account. And Zach's like, no, we don't want him on our team. Go away. Okay. It seems like there's a lot of implication that maybe Jesse is bisexual or that he's like into men as well. Like, I don't know what is going on with these two. These two, I wish I could be a fly on the wall and just like legit know everything and how it happened. They have an interesting story. So then we get to the whole hall pass thing. Nia and Danny are still not admitting who their hall passes are, but they're being light about it. I have heard that they have connections to like a really big church in California and that they're like super Christian and that could have been why. And now the reason I even mentioned this part because it wasn't like that big of a deal was because Janet, and this is what Janet was really driving me crazy, is like, it feels like they're shaming the rest of us by not picking a hall pass. Like they think their marriage is better. No, it doesn't. You are just looking for shit, and now you are just making shit up to be mad at. And it is so annoying. No one is shaming you for having a hall pass. If anything, they were getting shamed for not admitting it. Like, you guys are fucking weird. No, if you're any sort of like, use your critical thinking for a second, clearly they have some reason they don't want to say this. And clearly it has to do with like how Christian they are or some shit like that. Like, I get maybe you're not religious, but can you not like even understand that? Like, I don't know. And I've heard something about them being connected to like the Hillsong Church or some shit. So I don't know what's going on. But either way, Janet trying to take it as like an attack on her, fuck off. So Jasmine says it feels weird because they've admitted that they had sex on a rooftop. And Zach is like, yeah, but that's them. So it's different. And Jasmine's like, yeah, but it's still sex life. And Zach's like, yeah, but it's them having sex with each other. It's not like somebody else. And he's like, I think for them, it's like a big like taboo to like say that you would sleep with someone else. And yeah, I think so too. I think they have their own rules about what they can and can't based on what they think like maybe like, is quote unquote Christian and what the church would be okay with. And maybe the others don't understand it. And maybe I don't understand it, but I can understand that's why they're doing this, not because they're trying to like shame Janet. Okay, so then we go to Danny drinking. This was obviously like kind of the climax of the episode, but Danny says that he didn't know Janet was even in there when he went in to take the swigs of tequila. Janet says, it was a small moment, but it felt significant. And that's why I had to go tell everybody. Okay. Danny says he was going to get a White Claw from the fridge in there. He wasn't intentionally trying to make Janet feel uncomfortable. I mean, you were more than going to get a White Claw, obviously, but it's clear there's two things that are true here, which is that Janet and the other girls are kind of being annoying and Karens about this, but also Danny's probably an alcoholic and is somewhat hiding drinking from people. Like both of those things are true. And by the way, Danny doing all that doesn't necessarily make him a bad person. Him grabbing Melissa's ass makes him bad, yes, but just simply being an alcoholic doesn't make him a bad person. I just want to reiterate that because a lot of times, like people synonymous, addiction with like loser, bad person, whatever. And that's sometimes true if you're Jax, but not always. Um, So Janet says she turned around and he was chugging a significant amount of booze. And again, it's hard because it's so subjective, like what is significant. But she said he was even crouched down trying to hide it from her, and he came in to avoid the cameras. Okay, well, you don't know that he came in to avoid the cameras. He may have just come in because that's where the tequila was. Probably she's right. But again, the amount of assumptions that she's making, and it's fine. This is a reality show. We're not like, this isn't court where everything has to be factual. But I will say that, like, she says them as though they are fact. And again, I don't know why he would crouch down to hide it from her when she's right there, but I don't know, maybe just because he was drunk and being stupid. Danny says he crouched down because he didn't want anyone to see him swig the tequila. Okay, there you go. He said he didn't want him to swig the tequila or drink the White Claw because he knew he couldn't trust people. And he's right. Like, so clearly he wanted to keep going and drink. This is what I think. I think he knew he had already drank so much. He knew people are going to be like, oh, fucking Danny's still going. And, you know, we tell him he always goes overboard. So he did it in secret because he knew that people were going to be judgy about it, which, by the way, some of them have the right to be, like Jasmine and Melissa. But, you know, I think that's really what happened. And I think it got blown out of proportion. Janet says, you know, she's like, I don't want to be in on the secret. I don't want anything to do with it. It feels like he's hiding something from Nia. You don't have anything to do with it. If you had just shut your mouth and just gone on with your day, you wouldn't be a part of it. You clearly wanted to be involved in this. The first thing you do is come and tell people and say it in your confessional, etc. Don't act like you're not, like, kind of foaming at the mouth to be a part of any drama that you can, because you are. She's like, I don't want to know something I can't tell Nia. Calm down. Nia knows her husband's a drunk. Okay. She watched him drink like 9 glasses of wine at the thing. This is not like, he's not in the closet like getting a blowjob from somebody who's not his wife. Like, it's just like, relax. And it's not like he came up to you and was like, shh, don't tell Nia. Shh. Like, none of that happened. Okay. Nia says if she was getting a snack and Jason came in and he started taking a shot or a couple shots, she would laugh. Nia says Danny didn't even talk to her. Like, he wasn't like, Janet, don't tell anyone. Exactly. He just took a shot and then he left. I think he more than took a shot. I think he probably took a few shots or a few swigs, took a White Claw and left. Again, this is not something that would register that much if I was like going to party for a weekend at something, but it would register if I knew that like my friend's husband was maybe struggling with a drinking problem, which clearly they know. They know he has a drinking problem, which in my opinion kind of makes it worse that Janet is outing this and that they're like yelling at Nia to make this a thing. Like, if anything, they should be more understanding. And I'll get to that because I understand people could be like, well, but Brittany outed the Coke thing. It is different. It's different based on longevity of time on TV, on history, on actions. It's different in many different ways, which we can get to that. Nia thinks Janet's trying to make issues out of nowhere. It's not even that she's making an issue out of nowhere because clearly there is an alcohol issue. It's that she's trying to get involved in it. That's the part that's annoying. And it's not something for her to be involved in. Zach says Nia knew, and that's it. Jasmine says it's weird and they didn't know that Nia knew. So Zach is saying that Nia knew he went to have those drinks. I guess. I don't know. Zach says he's taken lots of shots in cupboards. Kristen says that she's also taken shots in cupboards. Again, you know, maybe that's not the best defense. I don't know. Just because it doesn't mean it's the same. But I will say that, like, Janet is making it into like a bigger thing than what it needs to be in this moment. You know, Brittany says they've all done that. It's okay to like party and whatever, but it does feel weird because it feels like he's hiding it. Lala says there's a difference though, which is, again, because we have to have Lala's opinion. Britt is fun and Danny is inappropriate. Okay. Which that is the only difference, is if he's being inappropriate, which we know he was at least once with Jasmine and her wife, girlfriend, fiance, I think they're engaged. Um, that's when it's a problem. Yeah. But that being said, if he's just going and taking a shot in the closet and then getting into a bed and going to sleep, he's not hurting anyone. So I don't know, like, I guess you could say, okay, well, what if he does it again? We don't know. Can he control himself, etc.? Well, yeah. So then maybe his friends need to sit down and be like, when you hang out with us, you cannot drink anymore. You have to stay sober and see what happens. And if he can't agree to that, maybe you don't invite him on trips. That's it. But if you keep inviting him and you've asked him to not take those actions anymore, but you didn't tell him that he can't drink, and he's also an addict, so not drinking might be extra hard, then you can't freak out every time he's in a closet taking a shot, especially when the result is that he just went and passed out. Like, it's like he's not like bothering anyone or like being belligerent. He just went to sleep, which is maybe better, actually. Janet says, oh yeah, Jason says he's doing things he knows he's not supposed to be doing. Okay. Thanks. It's very vague, but I'm assuming drinking too much is. Janet says half of their friends were in the kitchen doing shots. So, it wasn't like this was like he could have been out with everybody. Okay. Nia says not everyone was in the kitchen at that time when he was doing that. Everyone was all over the place. And again, she thinks Janet's making something out of nothing. And again, I do think that Nia is protecting her husband and protecting her family. And to be honest, I don't blame her. I would probably do the same thing. So Nia says if this wasn't bothering her, why is it bothering everyone else? Okay. Yes, this is kind of the point. It's like clearly Nia knows her husband has a problem. She probably deals with it behind closed doors as best she can. We don't know where they are in this journey. And she's dealing with it kind of in the way that you deal with it in public, which is like, yeah, my husband got way too drunk, way too fast. And then he went and passed out. And like, it's embarrassing and it sucks because we're all here to have fun and eat dinner together. And my husband's missing out on it. And like, do I have to say it's because he's a drunken idiot? Like, no, it's obvious. You all saw him drink 9 glasses of wine and then like whatever else when they got back to the thing and pass out. Like, why do we have to, like, what do we need? Like one of those fucking billboards? Danny's drunk. Like, we all know and he's not hiding it from the camera. It's very obvious. He's drinking on camera. Yes, he hid those shots in the closet, but he was already hammered before that, which we all watched. So it's like, okay. So Nia says, yes, he had too much wine. He was tired. Yes, he did work and he passed out. By the way, that can all be true because you do also get even drunker faster if you're on less sleep. So again, like, it's not like they were like, hey, Nia, is Danny drunk? Is that why he passed out? And she was like, nope, he only passed out because he's tired. He's 100% sober. Like, none of that was said. It's not like she was purposefully telling a lie and then, trying to hide things. They were asking, like, is he coming to dinner, etc. And she was like, no, he was like working. He passed out. Like, it was a very, if they wanted to say, oh man, Danny passed out because he was drunk. If they really wanted that on camera, anyone couldn't have said it. And then if Nia had tried to like lie and deflect from that, then I could understand them being like, okay, now you're being fake. Right. But like, I don't know what they think. Like, I guess, I don't know if they think it's going to be like edited in some like magical way. So nobody ever sees any of the like the wine part. Yes, maybe they thought that. I don't know. But like, I mean, that's not Nia's fault. So Janet says if she was just upfront about it from the start and admitted it instead of going on about how he worked so hard and was tired, admit what you didn't like. Again, like what I just said still stands. Like, you didn't ask, or it wasn't like all the drinking all day was hidden. The majority of the drinking was on camera and out in the open. It's like being like, can you admit that we ate soft shell crab tonight? Do I have to? It's right here on the plate and the cameras are there. Like, it's so stupid. Janet says her husband works so hard and then she's like, do you know how much my husband works? What the fuck does that have to do with anything? Like, okay, I get what she's trying to say. Well, my husband works hard too, and he's not passed out and missing dinner. No, because he didn't have like 12 glasses of wine at the winery thing, the wine tasting, and he wasn't hammered. We know why Danny's passed out. We're not, like, Janet, we're not new here. Okay? This is Bravo. Trust us. We've seen worse. Like, she's so, like, everything's not about you. And just because Nia said Danny was just working and then straight after working he had to drive up on like no sleep, that doesn't equal Jason doesn't work hard. Like, she's so fucking annoying. Ugh. Okay. Lala then makes fun of his job, says it's not that tiring, which, like, I thought that was such an asshole thing to say. Like, what do you do, Lala? Fuck off. People could say that about you podcasting. And as somebody who podcasts, I would also be like before I started doing it, I was like, oh, it can't be that much work. It's actually so much fucking work, way more than I ever thought and way more tiring than I ever thought. But again, like, I would never have said that to someone because I'm not an asshole. Like, a lot of people's jobs can look easy from the outside, but you don't know what goes on behind closed doors or behind the scenes, I should say. Danny says his job actually is exhausting. He says he's not playing someone who's like speaking calmly. He's people screaming and running and yelling. He has to use a ton of physicality and movement, screaming at the top of his lungs. Yeah, I believe him. Because even just talking in a kind of like with a lot of expression, even that can be exhausting. And he talks about how that takes a ton of energy. And yeah, you see, like, he uses movement. He's like waving his arms around. Like, he's not just like sitting on a couch, like typing emails. God, even typing a fucking email can be tiring sometimes, guys, honestly. Okay, so Janet says if Nia had said, yeah, he played catch up at the winery, so he's probably out for the rest of the night, we would have been like, all right. Why does she have to say it so literally? That Janet, we have eyes. This show is not just audio, it's visual too. That we watched that happen. That's what happened. I don't understand. Like, it's like they want Nia to narrate it. It's like, why does she have to narrate it? Okay. Brittany says, we wouldn't have cared. It was the tiptoeing and the hiding, and it made us want to know more. I still think there was no tiptoeing and hiding. I'm sorry. I understand he was in the closet. That was him tiptoeing and hiding. But besides that, I don't think Nia was tiptoeing and hiding. Okay. And I think it has more to do with her pageant history. She wants everything to be perfect all the time. Okay, this is the real answer. Brittany's jealous. I'm sorry. I'd be jealous too. Look at Nia. I wouldn't want to like stand next to her ever, especially on camera in front of the world. Um, it's hard being next to someone who's a fucking 10 and also has a good personality. So yeah, I get it, Brittany. I'd be upset too if I was you. Okay. And by the way, no one thinks that Danny is perfect. I think that's the other thing. And I think maybe what they're forgetting, maybe because they're in it, is that like we can see him drinking and they do know that Jasmine filmed the scene exposing him for how he grabbed Melissa. So it's like no one is thinking Danny's perfect. But what we're not going to do is have everybody ganging up and yelling at Nia when she didn't do anything wrong. And I'm sorry, why does she have to be yelled at and held accountable for his actions? If you want to yell and get mad and make a big thing, etc., do it to Danny. He deserves it. Wait till he fucking wakes up with a hangover and let's all go in on him. That's fair. And Jasmine and Melissa have every right to do so. Okay? But again, like the fact that they wait, like they choose this moment while Danny's passed out and like Nia's sitting there at the table, like just enjoying her time. It's like, and then they wait till Nia gets up to start getting upset about it. Like, fuck off. And like, Brittany, with you with this whole like victim meltdown about like my husband's in rehab. Like, okay, great. Congrats. Like, if we really want to say something, you chose him. So Zach says Nia's doing what he would want Benji to do. Yeah, I think that too. I think people cover for their husbands. And to go back to Brittany, she covered for Jax for like 8 years or 9 or 10, whatever it was. Okay. Minimum 7. She has been covering for this man. And she even said, you protect your, in the after show when she talked about this, you protect your family. You're not going to like out someone, etc. She protected Jax until she literally couldn't anymore, and I think she literally couldn't because he threw a fucking coffee table and bar stools and punched holes in the wall, and her son had to move out. And at that point, I don't think anyone blames her for outing his coke addiction, because if she had just outed it on a random Wednesday when everything was calm and they were getting along okay, and whatever, maybe that would have been different, but it wasn't like that. It was like years of abuse and him poking, and now him getting violent, and like again, and now you have a son, like you have to protect yourself. Like he's shown that he's can't control himself. Like at that point, it is different. There is nuance and context to exposing someone's addiction. I do think that. I think the general blanket rule is that, you know, I understand that people protect their family, and you don't want to out someone for their addiction until they're ready to admit it and all that, fine. But again, there's situations where you have to. And I think that Brittany's is one of those. And I think I've given her a lot of grace for that, because I don't think she's done anything wrong. And I think Jax's, again, bigger problem is that he's a narcissist. But in the case of Nia, it's like, it seems like this is something that they're still kind of on a journey with, and they're still figuring out. And it also kind of seems like Danny, yes, he might be an alcoholic, but it seems like he's still like a good dad and husband to her. So yeah, she's still protecting him at this point. And maybe in 5 years, she'll be over that and she'll be ready to be like, fuck you, you loser. It's been 10 years of you drinking. You still haven't gone to rehab. I'm sick of hiding this shit. I'm sick of like maybe she'll have her moment too. Brittany, she's been on TV for 1 season. Can we give her a little bit of time to breathe before you have to out her? Like, it's like these girls are so ready to just be like, well, Brittany's husband's in rehab. So, we know Nia's gone to Al Anon. So let's all talk about that. Like, give the woman a chance to share her own story. Like, I think give her a little time. Like, I feel like Brittany is like, what, because she suddenly decided to be honest about something after a fucking decade, she's expecting full transparency from the rest of the cast. You're not the queen here. Okay. She's really, her and Janet, and Michelle, I'm sorry. Like, I put this in a tweet and I stand by it. They think they're the new like witches of WeHo. Like, they're trying, and Brittany thinks she's like Miss like Queen Bee of this show. It's not happening. Okay. I just want to put that out there. Um, Jasmine says, okay, so when Zach says he would want Benji to do the same thing for him, Jasmine's like, stop playing with me. I know you're on their side. And Zach's like, it's not that I'm on anyone's side. He's like, in this fight at this particular time, this is them. So he's like, this is them like being authentic. The situation was brewing about something else, but then it became what happened in that moment. And Zach says that's why he told Nia. Okay. So Zach says he feels he was doing the right thing in the moment, and Jasmine says it was all just weird. So Jasmine is clearly not on Nia's side in this because of what happened with Danny, which makes total sense. However, I do think that what Jasmine should realize is that, like, Nia not like standing on the table, getting a butter knife and tapping on her glass. My husband is a belligerent drunk. He's sleeping right now, not because he's tired, but because he is drunk. Like, just because she didn't do that doesn't mean she's condoning like what he did. Right. And he went to you and apologized, and you and Melissa accepted his apology, decided to move forward. So it's kind of like, if that's the case, it's like, what else is Nia gonna do? Like, I just don't think Nia is the one who's at fault. And I think that's it. All right, everyone. That is the end for my Valley recap for this week. For more bonus content, like my recap of episodes and, Summer House, all that kind of stuff, Real Housewives of Atlanta, head over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Bravo and Botox. And until next time, you are now in the know for everything Valley. Bye. Thanks for listening, everyone. Your support really means everything to me, and this show wouldn't be possible without you, the listeners. So please, if you enjoyed the podcast, leave a 5-star rating and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For more, you can join my Patreon, patreon.com/Bravo and Botox. And for $5 a month, you'll get 4 extra podcast episodes a month. You'll also get early releases of Bravo Paper episodes and more. Please also subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Bravo Papers and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Bravo and Botox and at The Bravo Papers. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, you can at buymeacoffee.com/Bravo and Botox. Send your love through some much needed caffeine. And any guest that was on today's episode will be in the show notes, all their social media and contact information. So thank you so much, everyone. Keep overanalyzing Bravo.